Hey guys, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan. Once again, and today we're doing another comic book issue. Today we're starting a new series here with ThunderCats Lost. This is the third side piece to the ThunderCats main continuity. So this is under the umbrella of Declan Shelby's storytelling, but it is a kind of attempt to flesh out the universe more so that it's a broader kind of system, right? So let's kind of go through the differences here compared to the main line. So the main line has 13 issues so far. I think actually 14 issues as of right now. For a period of time, there was 5 issues of ThunderCats Chitara that was coming out. This was a prequel, so you could read that before you read ThunderCats. It kind of ties in almost directly into the beginning of ThunderCats. But if you read it at the same time as when the series was coming out on its own, you kind of feel like you get a bit more of appreciation for Chitara as a character throughout those moments, because even though it's not exactly the same, Suli's storytelling kind of matches Declan Shelby's storytelling, right? So there's a certain kind of rhyme and reason to the stuff that Suli is writing about Chitara versus the stuff that Declan Shelby is writing about Chitara as she goes through, the 5 issues where Chitara was happening at the same time as the main ThunderCats series, right? Then Ed Bryson, who's the same writer as ThunderCats Lost, did the Apex one-shot. This is also kind of like a side story. I feel like this one, Apex, is a little bit more meaningful to the story because the Apex character turns out to be someone that we know, that we kind of care about, and is kind of like a dark version of one of my main characters, right? If you don't know, kind of skip forward a few seconds, but it's basically Old Man Lionel, right? And so in that context, knowing the story of Apex is actually quite useful because it shows you what is going to happen to Lionel in the current timeline if he doesn't get saved, which I'm sure he will be, but who knows, right? At the same time, ThunderCats Lost, which is this new series, kind of functions as a secondary kind of mainline story where ThunderCats, the normal story is happening at a normal pace. And at this point, we're coming back to the beginning of the series and following a slightly different path with a different group of characters, right? Because what happens here seems to imply that there are 2 ThunderCats teams, right? The first one, that is the one that carries Lionel's stuff, pod and stuff, and they crash land one place, whereas this team crash lands somewhere else, right? And they start kind of dealing with the fact that they're being attacked by other creatures and kind of having to deal with this kind of almost like Vietnam kind of war feeling kind of story, right? However, that's not necessarily true, I think, because my understanding of it is that Ed Bryson said that this was before the ThunderCats story, so this is another prequel. But the way it's written here, it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like it is happening concurrently with the main story. I might be wrong though, so if I am, feel free to correct me, but that's what this feels like based on this first issue, right? So enough kind of blabbing about the general kind of concepts behind this. Let's actually talk about the book itself. So the book is written by Ed Bryson, like I said, with art by Rafael Lobosco, and he did an amazing job here. I actually really like Rafael Lobosco's artwork, and I think that I might like it better than the main ThunderCats kind of art by Drew Moss. However, I'm a bit reticent to say that because the thing is that I know what the ThunderCats are supposed to look like, and I know I have a preference for what they're supposed to look like. I actually really like the anime style version of the second series that came out in 2011. That's my favorite version of the ThunderCats, right? And so Drew Moss doesn't really look like either of the original versions of the ThunderCats. His style is very different, right? And so I don't necessarily like it as much as those other 2 because I'm constantly comparing it to them, right? But none of these characters that are introduced here in ThunderCats Lost are characters from the movies or from the TV shows or anything, right? Well, only the TV shows. There weren't any movies as I remember. And so these characters feel completely natural and like they should exist as Rafael Lobosco draws them, right? And so I find myself liking this style a bit more. I don't know if I would like Rafael Lobosco's version of the normal ThunderCats. I know that I don't really like Apex all that much, but that's because he's like a dark kind of like future timeline version of Lionel, right? So I just want to say that I really like the art style here. I thought it was great. I do like it more than Drew Moss's style, but that's just because I like Rafa's style better, right? However, the character designs are great. I really enjoyed them. And then we have Roshian Kurichi Yanal, or Yanalil, maybe something like that. I don't really know how to say their name. And they seem to be the letterers for this, right? So good for them. And everyone on this team did a great job. I don't really like Ed Bryson's take on the Silverhawks. I didn't really enjoy that, mostly because the artwork wasn't up to my taste. But I have really enjoyed what he's been doing with ThunderCats. So I hope that he continues to do a great job with this series, right? So let's get into what the book actually is about. So it opens up with this blue Thunderian person coming out of the water, and his name is Bengali, and he's kind of like Tigra, I guess, but he's blue instead of orange. And it turns out that he is surfacing from this lake directly into a war zone, and more like a crash site. So their ship crashed. I can't remember the name of the ship, but it crashed. People are escaping the ship, and at the same time, they're dealing with these masked, kind of like power armored group of people that are just attacking them. And it's really unclear, but everyone knows that Thunderians are dying left and right? And so Pumira, who is the character that we see here, is trying to pull the injured out of the lake. And then this other character, Neko, who looks like Bengali, but apparently she's not related to him. She's actually dating him or something like that, attacks and chastises Pumira, who she just saved from attackers, for wasting her time trying to save people that can't save themselves. And this is kind of like the classic, spunky character that doesn't understand the value of life kind of feeling, right? And then we can introduce these other characters, Ligon, who's this giant, kind of like a Volstagg kind of character, and Linkso, who is the older, kind of like more controlled character, right? And so you can see that a lot of these are parallel to the main ThunderCats, but also kind of slightly different, and it's really enjoyable. I like that. Linkso is kind of old, and he has lost his sight due to an injury he received while the starship crashed, right? And so he can't really see, but he knows enough about the ship to navigate it without vision, and he gets mad about the fact that he's blinded, tries to go back inside the ship, and eventually manages to get information out of it so that they can kind of go find the other ship that they're supposed to be finding, apparently, right? And then as this is happening, the rest of the ThunderCats that we see here are forming their attack pattern so that they can escape, right? And so what happens is that Bengali manages to group the team together, grabs his cool Thunderian hammer that kind of looks like a... what does it look like? Let me think. It looks like a Thor hammer, but more like a pickaxe as well. So it's kind of fun. I like it. And he launches himself at a bunch of attackers, and I think at a ship, and the ship just shoots through him, right? And so he kind of gave his life unnecessarily, in my opinion, but it kind of helps to get everyone else to gain resolve and kind of develop their desire to get out of here, right? And so he sacrifices himself, and then Ligon manages to force himself onto a ship, actually I think the same one that killed Bengali, rip the canopy off because he's super strong, because he's like a liger, right? And then he removes the people that are inside it, and then everyone else jumps in, and they manage to escape on the ship, right? And so they run away. Elsewhere, something like a pigman, I guess is what you could call him, starts to yell at the troopers for letting the cats get away and escape, and then he kills the leader of this group of soldiers because he failed at his job. And we see that the ThunderCats are being attacked by this kind of like very like Nazi Germany kind of looking group of pigmen, which I think is funny. It might be an interesting kind of, well, not exactly, but it seems kind of similar to like Animal Farm or something like that, like a callback to that, which I think is fun. It's kind of interesting, although Animal Farm is about the Russian Revolution, right? The Bolshevik Revolution, so it's not exactly the same, but it seems kind of similar. And then the ThunderCats have to establish a chain of command at this point. Their leader is dead. The next leader is disabled. He's blind now, so he can't really be in charge during fights. And they kind of fight over who is supposed to be in charge, right? So Linkso, who is supposed to be second in command, nominates Pumira to be the leader. But then Neko, the blue lady, gets mad, and she's like, if she can't even fight, why would she be in charge? And Pumira can fight, but she'd rather be a healer. So she says that she will make it work if she needs to, but she would rather someone else be in charge, but not Neko because she's too stupid, right? She's too abrasive, right? And Ligan manages to get everyone to shut up because he gets mad at the fact that they're squabbling over who gets to be in charge instead of dealing with the sacrifice of their members of the race, right? So this manages to shut everyone up, and then Pumira decides to take charge, and then the Pigman character sends this character called Scorpius down to hunt the ThunderCats, and that's where this issue ends. And it was pretty good. I actually quite liked it. I think I really enjoyed it a lot more than the first issue of ThunderCats. And I can't say that I liked it better than all of the issues of ThunderCats, but it is definitely up there in terms of the new ThunderCats stuff, right? So this was a great issue. I think I really liked it. I think that Ed Bryson really managed to learn a lot about Declan Shelby's work in order to make it feel like it fits in the same universe, but still kind of have its own vibe, right? And I can't remember if I mentioned this already, but it feels like the ThunderCats are kind of like a He-Man, kind of traditional fantasy, save the world against the evil Dark Lord kind of feeling, and this feels more like a more grounded war story, if that makes sense. So I really like that kind of feeling, that difference in the vibe, because when they combine, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens, right? So overall, great issue here. Let me know what you guys thought if you've read it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you guys later.